Well, I really like this deal for the Bills getting Rasul Douglas. And I wasn't sure what they were going to do because there were so many different positions that they could go after, whether it's wide receiver or a tight end or defensive tackle, linebacker, cornerback. But I'm glad that they finalized this deal with the Green Bay Packers and getting a cornerback here on this roster, because if you think about it, the other positions, there's a chance that those guys can come back. Dawson Knox should be back within a few weeks. Let's not forget Justin Shorter is still on IR as a wide receiver. And then you go to the defensive side, Daquan Jones should be back at the end of the year, and there's still a slim chance that Matt Milano could return. So looking at it from that perspective, the Bills attack the position that they know they are not going to get any help with Trey White absolutely being done for the year. And the other reason why I like this deal so much is that Rasul Douglas is immediately the biggest corner on this Bills roster right now. So I put together a little depth chart here. Not even a depth chart, just the cornerback room. And just visibly, it looks so much better now as it's fortified here with this fourth outside corner. So it's Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, Kaiir Elam, and then Taron Johnson and Saran Neal in the slot. And of course, should probably mention Josh Norman. But Rasul Douglas is 6'2", 210 pounds. Christian Benford is 6'1", 205. And then there's a drop-off. Dane Jackson's only 5'11", 180. So like I said, Rasul Douglas is immediately the biggest corner here in the room for the Bills. And they brought that size and physicality element. And another sneaky aspect of this deal that I like is that Douglas does not miss a lot of tackles. In his 7 years, only once has he had a missed tackle percentage above 9%. And if you look, Dane Jackson's missed tackle percentage is 15.2. Christian Benford has not missed a tackle this season. So there is your CB1 and CB2. Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, two, maybe I shouldn't say studs, but, we're talking about Christian Benford becoming a stud. And I think Rasul Douglas, like you said, if he can have that Micah Hyde effect, I think Bills did a really good job here with this trade today.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is what they're going to be able to do. It isn't just a rental. Want to make sure we stress that enough on the show during different segments. I don't believe Rasul Douglas is anywhere near a rental. The Bills have a 1 year, $7 million deal plus a $2 million option on him. So 1 year, $9 million to keep Rasul Douglas in this defense. And I definitely think that was part of what was so intriguing about him, maybe over Sean Murphy-Bunting, and then probably over Jalen Johnson, a guy that was going to, yes, he's younger. He's been a stud. He's probably been an underratedly top 8 to 12 corner in the league, maybe a slight tick better than Rasul Douglas, maybe not, but it definitely had the youth on his end. And the Bills really wanted him longer than just 9 games. They did not feel comfortable enough that he'd sign a single digit deal like Rasul Douglas has next year. And you're probably talking about two figures in front of the millions there for Jalen Johnson, probably in the 14 to 16 range. And they just don't have that flexibility right now with the unknown of Trey White. So the Bills did well. I don't believe he's a rental. He's going to figure out this defense. And that's a topic as we kind of transition Rasul Douglas into the Bengals game. The Bengals are now starting to tick on all cylinders finally. Team starts 3-3 like every year. I don't know what it is. It's really interesting what they do. There's always an injury. There's always this. There's always that. I don't think their coach is particularly good, but the quarterback does always figure it out. And they do always start to tick on all cylinders as they get into November, December, and then obviously into January. But Rasul Douglas, as you go into this game, he has his own experience. He knows what he's doing. And I don't think it's crazy that he's active. And I don't know that it's that crazy that he plays. So we'll have to see what Sean McDermott says tomorrow, as Tuesday does give you enough time to get in the building today, get in the rooms tomorrow, and play. It's not that crazy. I definitely expect them against Denver on Monday Night Football. But I don't think it's that wild to think that he plays in this game. And I think he moves the needle enough for me personally, because I'm the one of, I don't know where Kevin stands, but I'm one that does think that Dane Jackson is one of the bigger, weaker links on this roster. And if not the defense, just the defense alone, he's a big weak link, if not the entire roster. And thus the Bills kind of proved it. They went out there and replaced him. Like, they didn't replace Christian Benford. Obviously, Kaiir Elam was already replaced. So they went out there and replaced Dane Jackson because they probably agreed. that he's an emergency corner, that he's a corner 4, that he's a guy that can come in and spot start, that knows the defense. But I do believe he's enough of a needle mover to put a guy back on the field. I don't think this move gets made with Trey White here. So I do believe that with this specific trade, he moves the needle enough for me to be confident against some of these teams that the Bills run a really good zone defense, right? So if you have a guy that's really good in zone, that can help McDermott out. And then you have a really good pass rush, that can help McDermott out a whole lot. And Kevin, we talked about Elam for a little while. So why don't you tell us what your thoughts were around the corner room, but then the Elam situation?
Well, I know we've had plenty of discussions about Kaiir Elam and his future here in Buffalo, and his name was getting ramped up a lot in trade talks, and there were a lot of rumors saying, will Brandon Beane move on? And, I'm glad he didn't, because I still like Kaiir Elam. I know. They just had a guy literally come off the street, 35-year-old Josh Norman, and he got a jersey ahead of Kaiir Elam. So it looks pretty bleak. But I went back and I found a video where Brandon Beane was talking about Wyatt Teller. And he's talked about this every single year ever since trading away Wyatt Teller. And in the video, he says, you learn to have patience as a general manager and you don't want to give up on these players too soon. And it really bothers him. I mean, I've gone to a couple of events. It's called a seat at the table at Brandon Beane on the Sunday following the draft. And he'll even bring it up there. So whether it's, a closed-in event for the season ticket holders, or if it's to the public or to the media or whatever, Brandon Beane repeatedly talks about how he rushed his decision to trade away Wyatt Teller. I should say we did get Tyler Bass out of that, so I guess it did work in some ways. But regardless, Wyatt Teller turned out to be one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. So as much as I was hearing this Kaiir Elam trade talk, I just really did not see Brandon Beane pulling the trigger already, not even 2 full years into it. So I'm glad that he stuck with Kaiir Elam here. And I'm glad that he went with Rasul Douglas, because if he were to acquire Jalen Johnson, you talked to him. I mean, that's a hefty price. You're going to have to give up a lot. You might have to give up on Elam. You're going to have to pay Jalen Johnson. So I just think that this is a perfect happy medium deal, getting Rasul Douglas to Orchard Park.